Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and this month marks the 35th anniversary of the release of Transformers the Movie, the 1986 animated feature. And so this month we are going to take a look at many of the Studio Series 86 line toys that were done to commemorate the movie's release. The first one up we're going to take a look at was a surprise for me that they would choose. We're going to take a look at Jazz. Now, as I stated earlier, Jazz was a surprise for me that they would pick to release him, as Jazz's alternate mode in the 1980s toy line was of a Porsche racing vehicle. And I had remembered reading a number of years back that Porsche had decided they did not want their vehicles to be used at all with violent robot toys. A cheap shot at the Transformers, since they did not agree with being seen as a pacifist organization being associated with violent robots destroying each other on the big screen. However, as it has been recently announced that for the upcoming Rise of the Beasts movie that we're getting next year, Mirage will have the alternate form of a Porsche. So evidently, they have decided to rescind that statement, which would be a smart thing for them, as every other car maker has the numbers to prove. Being advertised free in a Transformers movie has kind of helped sales. Of course, there's also that little incident in the 1980s where they wouldn't accommodate a television series, whereas Ferrari would, and everybody wanted Ferraris for 8 years. But we won't go into that. At any rate, here we have Jazz. He's done up more to resemble his cartoon counterpart. So that will be a treat for those of us of the Generation 1 era. We now have a cartoon-accurate Jazz. And of course, like all the studio figures, he comes with a backdrop. This is intended to resemble the interior of Moonbase 1. So we can have Jazz in here, and if you want to, for added more things for the movie, you can have him here with Earthrise Cliff Jumper. Let's put Cliff Jumper here on the base with him, and even see how well they stand next to each other. Aside from their weapons being out, that's not too bad of a look for them. But then again, we're not all necessarily here just to look at that. As many of you will want to see, how does he look compared with his Generation 1 toy? So here's the original toy. This sample's a little wonky from Playware. So as you can imagine, Jazz was a popular character. But also, it's also fitting that they did decide to choose Jazz for one of the characters to be released in the early run of the Studio series, as Jazz's voice actor, Scatman Crothers, died shortly after the movie was released. Or at least he died before major release for the movie, so that's part of the reason why Jazz barely showed up in the third season, despite being a survivor of the battle with Unicron. While episodes may have been drawn to feature Jazz in them, all of his lines were cut, and Jazz was more or less kept relegated to the background whenever possible until he disappeared totally from the screen. Okay, aside from the background, the only other accessory for Jazz is his gun. And of course, the interesting thing about Jazz's gun is that it does draw some inspiration from the Generation 1 gun. It shares roughly the same basic shape. It's not a 100% copy, as you can clearly see. But it does share the same basic shape as the original toy's gun, so that is a nice feature. And of course, if you would prefer Jazz to be looking like he's working at the computer or whatever, his gun can be stored on his backside, which again is also a nice feature to keep the gun out of the way. Well, we'll remove it now. We'll take a look at Jazz's articulation. We can turn his head from side to side, and it will rock a little bit up and down. I'm trying to do it without knocking the panel loose. His head is on a bit of a ball joint. His arms will reach out about so far, and they do rotate all the way around at the shoulder. He does have a joint at the elbow, so you can bend his arm at the elbow 90 degrees. And he also has a swivel at the bicep. So he does have the G.I. Joe battle grip. You can twist him at his hip. Jazz can spread his legs apart almost into a full splits. His legs do turn at the thigh. They do it slowly. You can hear that ratcheting. You can raise his leg at the hip just under 90 degrees, and you can bend his leg at the knee a little over 90 degrees. So, Jazz does have some articulation, so you can pose him in a variety of different styles, or try to look like he's dancing. Now, of course, we got to transform Jazz into his classic alternate mode. And the first thing you have to do with that is we come here to the sides of his legs, and we're going to rotate the wheels so that they're now facing the front of his legs, like so. And then we come down here to his feet, and we're going to fold the feet down and make sure to press them against the car. Then once that's done, you will fold his legs up and inside the lower leg, like so. Get them up to about there, and then you are going to connect his legs at the bottom. Then we come up here to Jazz's arms. You'll rotate the arm to the side so that you can see the hole in the arm, because that's where you're going to fold in his fists. Like so. Then we're going to raise the upper body out, like so. As we do that, we're going to fold in the robot head, and then this little piece here just under the hood, we'll fold that up so that it completes the detail on the top of the car. Then they want you to rotate this silver portion of his hip. Of course, it's easier just to rotate it and then rotate the white plastic. Although do be careful, because that can pop free, the white section can, relatively easily if you're not careful. It just easily slides back in, but you still want to be careful with that. Do that too much, it will break the toy. At any rate, once that's all done, then you're going to bring the arms down to the side, and then we will swing them inwards. Feel free to make necessary adjustments to the body to get it to stretch out so that the arms go under and touch his waist. There we go. Now, once we've done that, we come up here to his backpack unit. You're going to fold out the doors. Again, this will require a little dexterous moving. Then we come up here to the back windshield. We'll fold it out like so. And then we just bring everybody down and attempt to snap into place. And once that's into place, you simply fold down the doors. There's a hole right here along the side, and they should line up and connect with the post protruding from the arms. So that will hold the doors in place. And then there you have it. Jazz is done up in a cartoon-style version of his alternate mode, which of course was a racing Porsche. We'll have the original here right next to him. As you can see, it does carry over a lot of the design, but of course alters it somewhat. That way Hasbro doesn't have to pay Porsche for the license. Of course, all of the racing markings are removed from this version of Jazz, and they've even changed his racing number to 14 instead of 4. And of course, the stripes running down the middle are of a brighter color than what they were on the original toy. So, all in all, it is a nice update. And of course, Jazz does roll pretty good across this table. And for a little bit of added extra fun, if you'd like, you can attach Jazz's gun to the roof of the car. As we get down here to my thoughts, I would say this is definitely one of them to go after, folks. This is a nice remake of the original Jazz. And certainly before Porsche changes their mind again and decides they don't want to be a part of violent robots again, this is certainly one to consider picking up. It is a nicely done version of the classic character. It transforms very simply, so you don't have to worry, and at the moment you won't have to worry about too much play wear like on the Generation 1 toy. But all in all, this is an animation correct version of Jazz, and certainly a worthwhile addition to anybody that was a fan of the 1986 film. At any rate, that concludes my review of the Studio 86 release of Jazz. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and join our ranks. Make sure to ring the bell so you'll be notified when we post new content. We also ask that you share this video with your friends and fellow collectors. That helps this channel grow in big ways. And also share your thoughts about it in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I'll catch you all later.